Guess what? If you don't turn your microphone on, you get no sound in the camera. That's I learned something within the first 5 seconds of this live stream. How about that? All right, who we got here tonight? Let's see here. We got Amy Hogshead, who had Mexican food for dinner, and it was delicious. I, too, had Mexican food for dinner tonight, Amy, and it was also delicious. Let's see. Scott Moran had to miss 2 nights doing grandpa duty. Hey, that's an important duty right there, so I'm glad you were doing that. I had that blizzard. So I sold another one. I know I've sold more than just one in the last 2 days. So, goodness gracious, 61st birthday cake and ice cream. Boy, you've had a pretty good day. Hi, Cheryl. Hey, congratulations on being the 4th comment there, Joyce Koenig. And we know the party can start now that you're here. So Joyce did have a birthday yesterday. She turned 27, is what I heard. Hi, Teresa Bitters. Hey, Bill and Crystal. Let's see here. Yes. Hi, Joe and Marcia. All right. Oh, Scott, did you have a birthday yesterday too? Does Scott and Joyce have the same birthday? Is that what I'm understanding? All right. All right. Very good. Hi, Linda Horn. Hey, Amy. Hey, DW. Hi, Marcia Bowman. And Margie and Doug. I was there when they purchased. I was having a blizzard of my very own when Doug came through and had one. And I want a full report. For those of you who had that frosted animal cracker blizzard, I want a full report right now. Get in the comments. Go. Let's see here. Happy birthday, Scott and Joyce. Dave and Amy are here. Tim and Candy are in the house. Linda Burkholder, who I heard just got a book today. Did you just get a book today, Linda? If not, go check your mail because I got delivery confirmation on it. So I tell me if it's the right one. But Linda, I think you got a book today. Hi, Christina. Linda thinks something's wonderful. I'm not sure what's wonderful, but maybe everything's wonderful because it is a wonderful life, you know. Margie and Doug gave me a yum yum. All right, yeah, y'all are welcome for that recommendation. So, I guess maybe I better turn this on here. All right. Okay, I know a couple of you who are here now were in on Shelby's funeral earlier. I want to thank those of you who came in, logged in to be a part of that. Any feedback as far as the technical aspect, because you guys have sort of been my guinea pigs. How did that go as far as a live stream? As difficult as the situation was, I want to know how it went as far as the live stream for those of you who were there. Scott liked the blizzard, and Linda, the blizzard was wonderful. Very good. Hey, Angie Myers. Hi, Marge Tangeman. Linda Burkholder, let me know if you got your book, because I got delivery confirmation on it just a little bit ago. So, Amy, did you have one of the blizzards? So, that the second one I bought was a participant's guide? There's no way. I specifically looked to see if it was a participant's guide, and it wasn't. Well, dang. Okay. Well, I tried again, tried and failed. So I'm going to go back and look. I'm sure that was not a participant's guide. I checked specifically. Okay. All right. Okay. Teresa Bitters, watch. Okay. Thank you for getting on and watching it. Yeah. So, yep. Yeah, Phil did a nice job. He sure did. So, it was sort of our trial run of the live stream capabilities. And, yeah, so. Oh, it's been a long day. Huh. Yeah. Okay. So the sound was good. Thank you, Scott. We had a full house today. We roped off every other pew, and we were not quite capacity, but at every other pew, it was pretty close. Okay. Thank you, Christina. All right. Well, very good. All right. We are going to. Thank you, Crystal. We are going to jump into. Well, we're on page 117. I can't remember off the top of my head what chapter this is, but we're going to start on page 117. Yeah, that camera's amazing, isn't it? This camera, what a godsend that we ordered that thing when we did, because right now these cameras, the same camera here is going for about twice as much as we paid for it. So thank you for all of you who tuned in. Hi, Jan. So also, you guys have the responsibility of reminding me when I log off tonight, I need to go up to my office and email out the link for First Light and information about Awaken tomorrow. We are going to be in the parking lot tomorrow, and then because it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day, so we figure we might as well be outside, and we'll kind of go from there. So, all right. Okay, well, we are on page 117. We're going to start with the little subtitle that says, Praying for the Miracle. Now, just a little refresher from last night for those of you who were here and need a refresher, or for those of you who may not have been here. Craig was talking about a man who sexually abused his sister. He and Craig and his sister were very, very close. And that man's name was Max. And just the pain and the bitterness and the anger that a situation like that obviously causes. And kind of talking about how forgiveness works and what we're supposed to do with it and why it's important and so on and so forth. So that's, man, this thing drives me crazy sometimes. But that's where we were last night. And that's sort of the backdrop that we're going to be finishing up discussion on tonight. So here's something, an emotion that Craig expresses that I think we're all very familiar with, even if we don't necessarily want to say, "Oh yeah, that's me." We may not be real excited about saying that, but I think this is an emotion that many of us are familiar with. So if you look down in the second paragraph, he's talking about how he went to church one Sunday after this whole ordeal with Max, and the pastor was preaching, and whenever you go to church like that and you got something in your mind, the sermon tends to bounce on that for some reason. Well, he was having that experience because the pastor was talking about forgiveness, and as you can imagine, that's the last thing he wanted to hear. So if you go to the second paragraph where it says, "My pastor preached on," if you go about halfway through that paragraph, I'm going to read this sentence to you. And I want to know, and the question I'm going to ask you is, do you identify with the emotion he expresses here? Does the emotion that Craig expresses in the sentence I'm about to read, does this sound like something you're familiar with? He said, "I remember telling God that I knew I should forgive this man I hated, but I didn't want to." Anybody ever been there? I remember telling God that I knew I should forgive him. I knew I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew I shouldn't be soaking in bitterness, and I knew I shouldn't be harboring these anger, and I shouldn't think about blowing up this guy's house. I knew I shouldn't be doing that, but I didn't want to stop. I was making a conscious choice to actively hate this man. All right, Teresa's willing to admit it. Cheryl was willing to admit it. Anybody else? Anybody else willing to admit that? Look, I've been there. Friends, I'm an action movie fan. The plot of, I'll say 75% of all action movies are revenge flicks. We love those stories. Somebody gets wronged and they go make it right. I mean, we love that. That doesn't make it right, though. So Anna Kay says she's been there before. It's a tough decision. Anybody else ever found themselves actively not wanting to forgive? Just made a decision. I'm simply not interested. I know I should. I know it's the right thing to do. I know that harboring this animosity is not helping me. Not really changing the situation for this other person. I know all that. I just don't care. I want to marinate in this fury for a while. I mean, you know where I've come with this, friends. Somebody tell me, who's my favorite superhero? Easiest question I should ever ask in the entire course of this study. Who is my favorite superhero? Tina and Mike, you should know this one. Who's my favorite superhero? There it is, Batman. Batman is my favorite superhero. You know the story of Batman? At 8 years old, his parents were murdered in an alley in front of him. And the rage that he feels from that spurred him on to use all of his resources and all of his physical capabilities honed to perfection to go out and take on evil in whatever form he could find it. That's revenge. That's a lack of forgiveness. That's allowing anger to take you to a place that we all know we shouldn't go. Does it make for a great story? Yes. Does it make for a great hero? Yes. Does it make for a healthy lifestyle? No. So that's what we got to watch out for. The Flash. Who wrote The Flash? Scott, seriously, Scott, The Flash. I've clearly failed here someplace. So, all right. Yeah. So, and so we're very familiar with these stories. We love them. And we look up to these action heroes and things because they go out and they go right wrongs. I've often said, I would love to live in Batman's world. I'd love to live in that world. You want to know why? I've been reading comic books, watching movies, reading books, and watching TV shows about Batman. I mean, literally my entire life. And you know how Batman's world works? All he's got to do is go find the right guy to punch in the face, and it fixes everything. Wouldn't you like to live in a world that simple? All you got to do is go around until you find the right guy to punch in the face, and it fixes things. I mean, that's a great world to live in. I'm telling you. That's so much easier than trying to negotiate and work on relationships and try to talk people into your side. Nah, we'll just go punch people until somebody does what I want them to do. Who doesn't want to live in that world? Unfortunately, we don't live in that world. But when we harbor animosity, when we marinate in bitterness, when we refuse to use the power of forgiveness, when we won't show the grace that we have been shown, we are creating a world where we think if we punch the right guy in the face, we'll fix things. But friends, you know it's not right. It doesn't work that way. Revenge fixes nothing. It's a very good reason why, and I think somebody quoted this the other night, it's a very good reason why God said, vengeance is mine. Because if that's the road you go down, you never get to the end of it. And marinating in anger, it doesn't help. So through the course of this sermon, Craig's pastor continued to talk talk about forgiveness and praying for the other person was one of the points of the sermon. Craig says, all right, okay, gosh, I guess if I got to pray for him, I'll pray for him, pray for a piano to fall on him. I mean, y'all been there? Sure, I'm willing to pray for him. I think he said die of hemorrhoids or something. I mean, that's probably not what we had in mind. And I'm sure the pastor of his home church, I don't know that praying that your enemies die of horrendous hemorrhoids. I don't think that's what he meant. So the Flash was created by a writer named Gardner Fox I'm going to be honest with you, I did not know that. So Bruce Kane and Bill Finger are the two guys I was looking for. They created a much better hero than the Flash. Anyways, yeah. So the pastor says, you need to pray for your enemies, and the pastor of your church says the same. You should pray for your enemies. And he says, I'm on page 118. He was talking about the next week in his personal Bible study. He came across a verse that started the process of softening his heart. If you skip down, he says, I certainly wasn't ready to pray for anything good. Sure, I was willing to pray. I was ready to pray. I was ready to move. I was ready to do all these things. But I don't know that I was ready to pray for God to bless this man. Now, at surface level, for those of you who were here last night, or for those of you who were listening when I did my little rundown, you might be thinking, this man Max did something pretty bad, which there's no denying. The man did something strictly evil, period. Evil with no qualifications. It's simply evil is what this man did. Again, no argument for me. I agree. Guy's evil. I believe he should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But to pray for him, hey, Suze, to pray for him, that's a tough sell. I mean, think about that. Think about the person in your life that you hate. And y'all can say, oh, I don't hate anybody. Okay, whatever. That person in your life that wronged you or upset you or, whatever. Hurt somebody whatever. We all got that person that we just seethe a little bit over. And it may be something major, like clearly it was in this situation. It could be something minor. You all know I drove down to Cincinnati and back yesterday, so I got this experience. Plenty of people who clearly have never had a driver's ed course, lots of them. And one guy, I was driving in a lane, and he came up behind me and was just flying. I mean, he came right up to my bumper. Now, there's no place I could go. There were 3 lanes. All 3 were blocked, had people driving in them. I was in the center lane. So he came up beside me, and I was just driving there, and I was stuck behind, and there was a line of 3. So finally, the left lane guy decided he wanted to go, so he started going on. So the guy that was tailgating me and was about to rear end the Beetle come flying in the other lane and made a gesture out the window telling me I was number 1. Now, what the heck he wanted me to do, I have no idea. But he made sure I saw it, rolled down his window, and blew his horn at me while he was telling me I was number 1. And I'm just like, dude, what? I don't know what you want me to do. And he went on down. Got pulled over by the cops. I had to throw that in there. But, it's just, I'm not going to say I didn't take a perverse pleasure as I was watching the cop chase him down and pull him over. I'm not saying that I was humble in spirit. And I'm not going to say that I didn't get a smile on a day I hadn't smiled very much. And, okay, so I couldn't help wondering if maybe he told the officer he was also number 1. I'm not sure. But anyways, people like that we can hold a grudge against. Yeah, he did give me his IQ code, because why you would drive like that in front of a police officer, Marsha, I have absolutely no idea. But the idea is we can get really bent out of shape about these things. Now, that story happened to have a happy ending, because the way that guy was driving, somebody was going to end up in a wreck. And I'm just glad it wasn't me or the Beetle. So, but I just think those kind of experiences can really fill us up with being angry. No cops to catch your guy, huh, Teresa? Anna Kay, I'm sure you were laughing the whole time under your breath. Actually, Anna Kay, I was not laughing under my breath. I saw no reason to hold it back. I was in the Beetle by myself, so I just enjoyed the moment. But those kind of things can really make you angry. And look, this is a silly example I'm talking about, but there are people out there who do things that are strictly evil and they're bad, and we can really harbor a grudge over that. And and we may say, all right, I understand what I should do. I have the cognitive comprehension of what I should do, but at the same time, that's not what we're supposed to do. So I'm looking into this camera because there are people in my life I'm far more angry than IQ of one guy who doesn't even register on my radar screen. But there are people in my life that I'm not real thrilled with, and I'm upset with. A number of you have heard me talk about some experiences I've had in my past with previous churches and things, and there's some things that went on that I felt were hurtful. I'll just go with that word, and these things are not easy to deal with. But the point is to pray for that person, and not pray that a grand piano will fall on their head. Tim, how do you reconcile that Jesus said we should love your enemies, bless those who curse you, and do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who mistreat you and persecute you? I'm not sure. Oh, you mean reconcile with the idea that we want to hold grudges? You can't. Those are mutually exclusive ideas. And see, we think, and this is where the big misunderstanding comes. Tim, thank you for bringing up that verse. This is where the big misunderstanding comes. That I need to set us straight here a little bit. The sermon I preached a while back, and honestly, probably the most popular sermon I preached here, was the one about where I made you continue saying, forgiveness is all about me and not about you. Y'all remember that sermon? And I made you repeat that like 27 times or something. The reason I did that is because people misunderstand these things. This verse that Tim quotes here. Tim, you want to give the scripture reference to that? I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head. But this, we think, means that we have to let anybody do anything they want and just be a doormat to the world. Wrong. I can't say it forceful enough. We are never, ever, never called to be a doormat to anyone. Are there times we need to be humble? Yes. Are there times we need to be subservient? Yes. Are there times that we need to put the needs of other people above our own? Yes. Are there times that we need to be a punching bag because somebody else is having a bad day? Nope. So if another person is not dealing with their anger in a healthy way, and we talked about that a little bit last night, when your anger cup is clear full and it starts to spill, because that's what's going to happen if you don't deal with it in a healthy way, and that anger starts to spill in places you don't want it spilled, that's on you. Whatever your excuse is for acting that way is irrelevant. And that's very important to keep in mind, because we think that, thank you, Tim, we think that just because I've had a bad day, if you've had look, last couple of days, I've had just a heck of a time. All right. I may not feel like, laughing and joking around and stuff and being funny. I may say, that's not where I'm at. And that's okay. But it's not okay for me to run my mouth or yell at people or be rude or be a jerk. It might give people a reason why I'm acting that way, but it does not excuse it. And if there's somebody in your life who's acting that way, you can't read this verse that Tim quoted here, which very much applies to exactly what we're talking about, and say, well, I guess I'll have to bless those who curse me, and he or she acts that way. I just have to take it. Nope. The word that describes that scenario is enabling, and nobody gets helped by enabling ever. Enabling people to behave poorly is never, 0 times is it okay. And that's where the rub is. That's where forgiveness gets tough. Because where's the line between holding people accountable and seeking retribution? Where's the line between, maintaining a standard of the way you expect to be treated and not allowing, this bitterness to fester inside of you? Where's that line? I can't tell you where that line is. It's going to be different for different people. However, if it hurts, if it's persistent, if it's showing no signs of improving, if it's dangerous, if it's threatening, if it's live your life walking on eggshells, if it's this like elephant in the room every time you're there, and that elephant never gets any smaller or any less obvious or steps on you any less, that's where a line's got to be drawn. That's not harboring a grudge. That's protecting yourself. They're not the same thing. Now, if it's just you want to get revenge on somebody who made an honest mistake or something like that, that's on you. But it's never, ever wrong to defend yourself. It's not a violation of what we're talking about for you to stand up for yourself. Somebody get in the comments and tell me if I'm making any sense. You guys follow me okay? Sometimes when the chat goes quiet, I can't tell if that means you're intent on what I'm talking about or if you're like, shut your phone off. I don't know what that means. So get in the comments. Tell me if you're following me. Am I making sense? There's got to be a line between holding a grudge and bitterness and not letting things go on the one side and holding people to a standard on the other. There has to be a line. And Craig would not disagree with that. Okay. I'm not disagreeing with Craig on this at all. Okay. It is very, 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 very important that you understand that you being safe is your responsibility. Okay. That's okay. It's fine. You guys are listening. I just want to make sure that I'm making sense, because sometimes it makes sense in my head. That doesn't mean it makes sense. But that's the standard I want you guys to think about. Where does bitterness end and holding a standard begin? Because somewhere between those two is the right place. Forgiving is okay. Pretending like it never happened is not okay. All right. We'll get into a little more of that. And to use Craig's example here from what we're reading, yes. Is harboring a grudge against Max okay? Nope, that's not good. Is to go ahead and let his sister go over and play at Max's house, is that okay? No. Because that's the difference between holding with grudge. We don't hate Max anymore, but we also aren't going to put ourselves in this position again either. Very important. All right. Thank you, guys. Feel free if something's resonating with you, feel free to tell me that. Because again, if we were live and doing this, the old-fashioned way, where all of our faces would be looking at each other, I'd be reading your faces. And I don't want to say. All right, I'm going on a tangent here, but it won't be a very long one. I was in front of a congregation today for the first time in 10 weeks or whatever it's been now, and I forgot how much I read the faces of the congregation. I can't do that here because I can't see any of you. I see my own face, and this is weird talking to myself. I'm getting too good at this. Out in the parking lots on Sunday morning, I can't see inside into the windshield, so I don't know what your faces are doing. But I hated today. I hated to do that funeral, but it was nice to have a congregation back together. And I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. I can't even tell you. I can't wait for us to get back together. So, and today, as hard as today was, it certainly reminded me of that. So, Anna Kay, I feel with my situation, I had to forgive a person. However, it was too hard to forget it. Yeah, this whole idea of forgive and forget, I don't know that that's the standard we're looking for. Unless by forget we mean it's not going to rule my life anymore. Okay, I'm totally on board with that. But if the idea is forget, it means I'm going to act like it never happened. Well, that's just you being dumb. And I would not recommend that. In the case of Max here in this chapter, I would never advocate saying, we'll just pretend like it didn't happen. Because first of all, That's going to be unhealthy for somebody like Craig, who is filled with a lot of anger about this. That's also going to be very unhealthy for his sister, who I'm sure had some residual issues with that. And the worst thing you could tell anybody who's been through something like that is like, just get over it. Not that big of a deal. That's the worst thing you could say. Now, there may be a time when you're going to have to say, you're going to have to stand up and be tough. That may come to that. But to expect somebody to just kind of pass over something like that, that's a recipe for destroying a life, even more than it's already been affected. So, okay, so Craig, let's move on. I'm sorry, I'm really tired tonight. So if I get to tangenting too much, somebody jump in here and tell me to move on. One of the things that he said, okay, so he decided, all right, I'm going to have to pray for this guy. Clearly, that's what God wants me to do. I'm not into that. So he started out with a very simple prayer. You know, there was nothing in there that was about praying for blessings, or please forgive this guy, or please work in his life, make him a testimony. That there's nothing like that. Craig started with a very simple prayer that we're going to be talking about a little more in just a moment. But right now, I'll tell you what the prayer was. I'm on page 118. I'm in the paragraph starting with, knowing I couldn't ignore this command any longer, I tried to pray for Max. I'm in that paragraph. Skip to the very last sentence. This is the prayer. God, I pray you work in his life. Amen. God, I pray that you work in his life. I pray that you work in Max's life. Okay, I know, Anna Kay, I wasn't disagreeing with you. I was agreeing with you fully. I'm just helping everybody remember that lesson learned is better only learned once. And I know that's exactly what you would say too. Here's the prayer. God, I pray that you work in his life. That person that you have these strong feelings for or about, would that be an easy prayer to pray? That's all it is. One sentence. One sentence. God, I pray that you work in his life. Now, I want to point out a few features of this prayer. First of all, it doesn't say, please make him rich. It doesn't say, please give him great authority. It doesn't say, make him go to seminary and become a minister. It doesn't say, help he and I be best friends. It doesn't say, help him to be a traveling evangelist who works with people who have clear problems. It doesn't say, please forgive him. It doesn't say any of that. It doesn't say, please excuse him. It doesn't say, help me be okay with what he did. It doesn't say any of that. Simple line. God, I pray that you work in his life. What would that prayer do for you toward that person that you got bad feelings toward? What do you think that prayer would do for you? In the road to forgiveness, in the road to not allowing bitterness to be one of the motivating factors in your life, on the road to helping you let go of something that a very, very heavy weight that you may have carried way too long and way too far. What might that prayer do for you? Crystal, I would absolutely agree. It's a great prayer to pray when you can't say anything else, and that's okay. It's a great first step. It might be the first 50 steps, but it's a great place to start. Christina says, I bet that was one of the hardest things he'd ever done. I do not doubt that. I do not doubt that. But remember, and I know that this is contrary to what you normally hear me tell you, because I am very much against selfishness, and I'm very much against self-centeredness. I am one of the firmest believers in not being that way in all aspects of your life. I'm a firm believer that any part of your life that there's a hint or a shadow of selfishness in it, it will not be blessed and it will not flourish. Period. Relationships, finances, time, careers, anything. If there's a shadow of selfishness there, it will not flourish. Now, I'm not saying it not flourishing automatically means there must be selfishness. I'm just telling you that selfishness is a one-way guarantee to say that area of your life will not flourish ever. And that could be the selfishness, like let's talk about a marriage. If your spouse is dealing with selfishness, that could really, put the kibosh on a flourishing marriage. Selfishness is a very corrosive thing. So I'm never about selfishness. However, I will make an exception in this case. When it comes to forgiveness, that is about you. And that is something you do for you. And what Craig finally realized, and I don't know if he spells this out exactly, but it's definitely kind of between the lines of what he writes here, is he says, I realized I had to come to terms with Max for me. I didn't have to forgive this man. I didn't have to excuse this man. I didn't have to endorse this man. But I did have to forgive this man. As much as I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I wasn't interested in that. I would have rather forgave him, with a sledgehammer than this way. So he had to start somewhere. But what I'm telling you is that this process of him saying, God work in Max's life was about Craig not living his life around this man anymore, because he who angers you controls you. So that was where Craig's journey started. That's now listen how weird this sounds. Craig's journey started by asking God to work in the life of another person. Think about that. Craig's journey started when he said, God, do something in this other man's life. That's where Craig's journey started. Now, what's going on in Max's life? Well, what doesn't make any difference, because this is about Craig here, not Max. And oh dear, there's a bunch of comments I'm missing here. Jan says, it helps you grow. Yes, a prayer like this, an unselfish prayer like this can help you. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Scott says, takes responsibility off of me, puts it in God's hands. Yes. It takes what you can't control out of your hands, but puts what you can control directly in your hands. That is, how you feel about that person is directly in your hands. Craig is going to tell a parable here toward the end of this chapter. And for those of you who read it probably know about the two monks and the woman who was trying to get across the river. I think illustrates this as so wonderfully. I can't wait to talk to you about that, because that parable was so perfect to what we are discussing here. And I'm looking forward to turning a few pages and getting to that. But I think all along, that's how bitterness can grow. And we'll get to that in just a moment. Teresa says that would take the focus off of my hurt and put control in God's hands, in God's hand of that person. I think you got one too many words in there, but I think I understand what you're saying. It makes it kind of breaks off, the problem that we're having, and allows God to work through that by saying, all right, well, you're asking me to work in life for that person. All right, I can do that. Anna Kay agrees with Crystal, as I do as well. Angie Myers, yes, Crystal, I agree. And reading on in the book, I liked what he says, that when we pray for others, may or may not change them, but my prayers always change me. Bingo. We have a winner. Angie Myers dropping truth bombs in the comment section tonight. So everybody wants to get in there and see that. That is exactly right. This prayer that is all from Craig, it's all about Max. But Craig is the one who is being changed. Maybe Max is too, but that's not Craig's problem. It's not even Craig's concern. It's all about Craig allowing God space to do something miraculous in his life. Yes, the serenity prayer, Scott, very good. It's the courage to change the things I can, the strength to change the things I can, the wisdom not to change the things I can't change, and the something to the, I don't know. It's something like that, but that's the Serenity Prayer. Most of the words I said are in that prayer. I just don't think they're in that order, but you get what I'm saying. It's about knowing the difference between what you can do something about and what you can't. What can you not do anything about? Well, Craig can't, inflict punishment upon Max. That's not an option. But Craig is completely within his right to pray for that man. That's something he can control. That's something he can do. And we talked about this, at least I hinted at this last night, when I talked about anger needs a direction to go. Well, here you go. This is where Craig's anger went. Craig's anger went to prayer. Because look, that anger cup could be full clear up to the top. And when your anger cup is clear full, it's going to spill on somebody. And it's going to spill in a place you don't want it to spill. And it's going to go someplace you don't want it to go. And that's bad. That's not where you want it to be. So in order to drain that anger cup, you got to do something. You can't just sit there with it. You have to find a safe place to tip that anger cup. And Craig learned that was prayer. Very good advice. So, Sue's the monk parables. Oh, did I miss it? Oh, it was in yesterday because I talked too long and we didn't get there. Okay. Let's go back and look at that. Let's flip back a few pages to page 116. Let's talk about killing the root. And just because I can never do things in the order they're supposed to be done, that's where we're going. So flip back to 116. This is, I'm going halfway down. There's a place there that says, a medieval story captures the manner at which bitterness held me prisoner. Okay. This is an interesting thing. I'm just going to read this straight out because I think this story is told so well. Listen to this and see how this deals with anger. A medieval story captures the manner in which bitterness held me prisoner. Long ago, two monks were traveling and approached an unusually rough river. Standing alone on the bank was a woman who approached the monks and asked if they could help her cross so she could return home to her family. Knowing it was forbidden to touch a woman, one monk quickly looked the other way, ignoring her request for help. The other monk, feeling compassion for the desperate lady, decided to bend the rules. Breaking tradition, he lifted her into his arms and carried her safely across the rushing water. Exceedingly grateful, the lady thanked the helpful monk and left for home. The two monks continued on their journey. After miles of silence, the first monk finally said in disgust, "I can't believe you picked up that woman. You know we're never supposed to touch the opposite sex." The compassionate monk replied, "I put her down miles ago, yet you continue to carry her in your heart." That's a great story. This is in whatever chapter we're in. Is it chapter 6? Okay, I think it's chapter 6. Yeah, it's chapter 6, page 116. 116 and 117. And it's a great story. Because the other monk was okay, look, I probably should have done it, but I didn't want this lady drowned either. So the one monk disagreed with the other monk, and the first monk was mad about it. The second monk said, "Look, my role here is done. You're the one still burdened with this." That's bitterness. These two guys disagreed on something. And look, let's not even debate the moral issue of what's going on here, whether or not these monks should have helped or not. Let's let that slide on by. They had a disagreement about something that they, they disagreed about. The second monk did his part and moved on. The first monk was still carrying bitterness in his heart. That's what we do. Now, in this particular case, we can all say, well, the lady needed help. Somebody should have helped her. Okay, great. And he got her safely across the river. And I think that's was the right thing to do. However, the other monk who was upset about it, and he, look, the guy had a vow he wasn't supposed to touch women. Okay, he did break his vow. Now we can all say, well, he had a good reason to, but the first monk was upset about that. Now we can make the argument that he shouldn't have been, because the second monk's motives were clearly pure. But he was going to harbor that bitterness until he let it go. How many of us are still carrying something from years ago that other people have already put down? And how might praying about that help? How might the first monk saying, God, please work in the life of the second monk? It gives God, and a couple of you have said this, that gives God free reign to do what God wants, right? He could work in the other monk's life in this particular situation. He could work in the other monk's life any way he wanted. So if God was mad at this monk for breaking his vow and touching this woman, God was upset about that, well, then God's prerogative now is to deal with this monk in that way. However, if God wants to get him an attaboy, you saved a lady's life because maybe there were some evil men who were coming along and would have hurt her or something horrible. Then God says, all right, we're working his life. Hey, there's an attaboy. Here's a blessing. Nice job. But it's God's prerogative what he does. And that's how that prayer opens that situation up. That simple prayer, and it's the one and if you don't take anything else away from this lesson tonight, take this. You got somebody you're harboring some bad feelings about, start with this prayer. God, I pray that you work in their life. Amen. That's it. That's it. And you can pray that prayer tonight. You could pray it tomorrow night. You could pray it the third night. You could pray it all this week. You could pray it all next month. You could pray it through the rest of this year. However long it takes. But I give you that prayer to pray. Because that is an honest prayer. Because if God then decides, and that's right, allows God to be the judge, not us, Cheryl, which is always good. It allows God the chance to decide what kind of work that person needs. Craig eventually allowed God to decide what kind of work Max needed. And that's not an easy decision because we'd like to take control of that and get some vengeance. But vengeance never fixes anything ever. It breaks my heart to say this. Contrary to what Batman has taught us all, vengeance doesn't fix everything. Makes for some great stories and a great costume and a great car and some great movies. But in the real world, it doesn't work. Oh, I hate that. But it doesn't work. And if we act like it does, we're only fooling ourselves. And honestly, we're not fooling ourselves because we know it doesn't work. Now, Craig goes on to tell us that praying this simple one-sentence prayer, one sentence, it says there on 118, that paragraph says, praying for Max over time changed me. Me praying for God to work in the life of a person that I hate changed me. Think about that. Again, he doesn't talk about anything that's going on in Max's life. I don't know that that's relevant to what we're talking about here. But this prayer allowed Max to give something to God for God to work on. And took it out of Craig's hand and out of Craig's heart. So, okay, Tim says, Candy wants to know, what if the person has passed away and God can't work in his life? Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. Again, I don't know that our prayer has to be, in fact, I'm sure that it's not supposed to be, God punish that person. God rain fire upon that. That's not what we're talking. And I know that's not what you're saying. But just because this person is no longer in this world doesn't mean that God doesn't deal with them anymore. And look, the prayer isn't give them fatal hemorrhoids, like he was saying there a minute ago. That's not the prayer. The prayer is God work in the life of that person, and whether or not that person's in this world or not is irrelevant. We can still ask God to work in that person's life. Don't think that just because they're no longer with us in body, they're absent from God. They're not. So if that person is no longer inhabiting a physical body in this world, doesn't mean they don't exist. And it certainly doesn't mean they're beyond God's reach. So if you want to lift that person up to God, do it. Go for it. Absolutely go for it. And allow God the chance to do what God feels is necessary, whether they're in this world or not. Again, that's God's problem. That is God's problem. We don't need to solve problems for God ever. God never needs us to solve problems. He might ask us to work towards solutions, but that's only by his request, not because he can't do it himself. So if you've got a person who's passed away, and it's a person that you harbor some resentment about, instead of carrying that around, you can still say, God, work in that person's life, regardless of where they are in the afterlife, is irrelevant. They are not beyond God's reach. And again, remember, as weird as this sounds, for me or you or Susan or anybody to say, God, work in that person's life, that prayer is about you doing something to empty your anger cup. That's all it's about. And whatever God chooses to do with that prayer, you're giving that prayer away. Whatever God chooses to do with that prayer, that's God's prerogative. You're not praying to say, God, take this prayer and bounce an anvil off the top of his head. That's not what you're praying. Your prayer is work in their life, whatever way you see fit. Because I'm tired of them working in mine. And that's an important distinction. God, I'm handing you what's going on in here. I'm handing it over to you so that you could take it, because I'm tired of that person working in my life. Because the work they're doing ain't helping me, clearly. And that's what I would recommend to you. All right, what kind of time I got? I got 4 minutes. Okay. This and to Candy and Susan's question there. This chapter has a very difficult ending to interpret in what you're talking about, because it seems that Max had a deathbed conversion. At least that's the way Craig portrays it, and maybe he did. It's not for mine to question. But this whole situation got tied up in a pretty tidy bow that doesn't always happen. You know, they got some closure. Well, closure is the wrong word. The situation seems to have worked out. Whether or not it did, I have no idea, but it seems to have. And what I'm saying to you is this beautiful story about the hospice worker who read the letter to Max, and Max crying and confessing and whatever else. That moment may not come. In fact, I'd say that moment probably won't come. Maybe it will. I mean, nothing's impossible. But especially in Candy and Susan's situation, there's no way you're going to have that situation. Now, some of the rest of you who may be upset with somebody who is in this world, maybe. But probably not. And I don't want any of you to take this lesson that we've had here tonight about forgiveness. I don't want any of you to take this lesson going forth hoping for the kind of resolution that Craig got to the story. Okay? And I don't want any of you to go from here thinking, well, I would like for my story of unforgiveness to end this way. Look, we all would like to. I got you there. But don't let that be the reason. If you really want this to work, what you need to do is legitimately say, God, work in the life of that person. Amen. Say it consistently. Say it humbly. Say it sincerely. But you got to say it. And that's how things go. Again, Craig's situation got, I don't know if happy ending is the right word, but y'all know what I mean. It got a decent resolution. Your situation may not. However, what you will experience, though, is this peace of Christ which passes all understanding. And you can carry a grudge for a long time. And Scott says, I held a grudge for 10 years until you preached the forgiveness is about me sermon. Well, thank you, Scott. My goodness, that humbles me, man. Thank you for that. It's always nice to know that God is able to use the ramblings of my mind to do that. I appreciate it. Joy says, what if the person who died was the one holding the grudge? I would say if that's something that you're still upset about, again, I don't know any details of the situation, Joyce, but whatever it was, I would pray the prayer about that person. God, please work in the life of whoever this was, even if they have passed away. Because I would contend that I would contend that it's still about God doing His thing, and it's still about God taking some of this animosity, some of this bitterness that we carry, and relieving us of it. That's what it's about. And if you have concerns, or you have residual whatever that you would like to be rid of, I would say use the same prayer about the person holding the grudge. God, please work in the life of that person. Because at this point, if they've already passed away, it's about you becoming healthy. That's what I would say. Tim says, and it ends up that you're the one changed. Yeah, imagine that. Because again, what is forgiveness about? It's all about me, not about you. All right, Tim Dickey. And if God decides to work in their life by sending Batman to hang them off the edge of the building, so be it. Couldn't agree with that more. And, just like the guy who told me I was number one getting a ticket. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Craig said he never had a speeding ticket. Yet did you ever get a speeding ticket in the Batman? I've never gotten a speeding ticket, knock on wood. Never got a speeding ticket. So I'm not so sure any self-respecting police officer would want to write a ticket for a Volkswagen Beetle that's 20 years old. I don't know, but thank God, no, I've never been down that road. So does that say the Batmobile? That says the Batmobile. That is the greatest line I've ever heard. The Batmobile. I have never heard that one. All right, everybody, get in the comments and give Scott a what up for the word Batmobile. That will now be the word I will say all the time and be annoying with it. So you can all thank Scott Moran for that, because that is my now favorite title, the Batmobile. That is absolutely fantastic. So yeah. So all of you who now have animosity towards Scott Moran for opening me up to this possibility, y'all can pray for God to work in his life. So there you go. All right, Batmobile. I love that. That's right. Everybody give Scott a what up. Yeah. So that's fantastic. So, all right. Yeah. The Batmobile. How could I have had that car for 3 years and never came up with that word? I am ashamed as I sit here right now. I feel literal shame upon myself for not coming up with that one on my own. The Batmobile. That is just fabulous. That's absolutely fabulous. Scott, you made my day, buddy. I appreciate that. You just made my whole day right there. You made my whole day. And I had a frosting coated animal cracker blizzard on this day, and that word still made my day over that blizzard. So I'm just telling you that that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. The Batmobile. That's fantastic. So all right. We have descended into madness here. I believe we have come to the end of this chapter. So what are we reading tomorrow night? Oh my gosh. Has anybody looked ahead to chapter 7? Anybody want to drop out of the study for tomorrow night? When you believe in God but don't think you can change. Now, come on, we all love change, right? We all love change. Change is something we all embrace. We think it's awesome. I don't know why that would ever be a problem. Oh my word, I'm going to get struck by lightning. So, yeah. Anyways, a license plate with the Batmobile on it. You're right. I do need that. I don't know if there's going to be enough letters on there. That's a lot of letters, but that's pretty good. So, oh my gosh, are you guys looking at chapter 7? The very first line says, "This is just the way I am. I confidently told my counselor I can't change." That is the worst phrase in the English language. That's just what I am. Man, that makes me want to shoot people with a bazooka. I cannot stand that sentence. Don't ever say that sentence. That's just how I am. Don't say that to me, because that's meant that what you're saying is you get to tolerate me now. Aren't you lucky? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But thanks. I mean, yeah, not so into that. So, all right. Oh, Amy, give me the reminder here. Make sure you give this video a huge thumbs up before you go. So, let's see. 3, 6, 7, 8. Can I get 8 letters on a license plate? The Batmobile. Yeah, change is constant. Yep, that's right. Yeah, Christina, this should be tons of fun. So, yeah. All right, that's where we're going tomorrow night. Does anybody have anything here for the good of the order before I cut you guys loose tonight? Yeah, I've heard that one many times too, but unfortunately, it looks like the next 2 days we're going to get to have an in-depth discussion on that. So, anybody got anything else you want to throw out there before I go up to my office and send out the links for tomorrow? I'm going to send out, there's going to be a First Light link come out. And then there's going to be we're going to have Awaken in the parking lot tomorrow. So, oh, good. I got a troll. I love trolls. I got a troll going through some of my videos here, trying to prove me wrong. I love it when people bark up that tree. So, all right. Yes, Amy, we do need to come back to church, and I'm working on that as hard as I can to get us back here. So, just know I'm trying. I want you guys back here. So, yes, thank you, Teresa, for the reminder. Oh, Christina, she's going to go experience the Frosted Animal Cracker Blizzard. You're going to be so happy with that. Yeah. All right. Yep. I think it's time to go get some sleep, Cheryl. I couldn't agree. Hey, doctor says time to go get some sleep. There you go. So, yeah. Okay. Good night. Hey. All right, guys. Time to sign off. You'll be getting that email from me in the next, good Lord willing, the next couple minutes. I love you all very much. Again, you honor me with your presence. I wish I could say I was going to go drive the Batmobile home. Unfortunately, I have my bike down here, but yeah, close enough. So, I love you all very much. You guys all have a great night. Thank you so much for sharing your Saturday evening with me. I appreciate that so much, and I enjoy our conversations. I hope that you all have a great night, and I hope to see a lot of you tomorrow, or all of you tomorrow, either in the live chat for First Light or in the parking lot for Awaken. And great. You all have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon, and y'all know what you need to go do now, right? Go wash your hands.